Louise, what is it in particular you wanted to talk about?
So I guess probably during the current situation of COVID, it's really important now more than ever that we have kind of open and honest conversations, and often some of those conversations can be really quite difficult, and we're having them maybe in situations and scenarios that maybe we might feel a little bit more uncomfortable than we would normally. So it's about some kind of tips and some hints, and recognising actually that you're doing a fantastic sterling job already, but it's just maybe equipping you with a little bit more of a toolkit to get through the next few months or so.
Definitely. And just a little bit more about why do you feel it's so pertinent at this point in time, and especially for people in care homes?
Yeah, so I guess kind of communication is an essential part of patient-centred care, and not just with patients, but with colleagues and their families as well. And as we know in the news at the moment, there's ever increasing numbers of deaths in care homes, sadly, from Covid19. So there needs to be a focus on how we can support you as healthcare professionals in those environments, particularly as an organisation here at Compton, how we can do that. And obviously due to visiting restrictions, potentially a lot of your conversations are actually happening over the telephone, which may feel unnatural. So it's just thinking about those as well, and also thinking about how those conversations go will actually impact patients and families potentially for a long time. So it's just trying to get the tone right almost.
Well, you're talking about conversations, but what types of conversations did you particularly have in mind, and what were you hoping to cover maybe during this particular session?
Yeah, I guess as a kind of a lecturer practitioner and still practising clinically in the community, things that I kind of at times still find difficult. So conversations such as over the telephone and trying to have those tentative, sensitive conversations can be difficult when you can't see somebody's face. Breaking bad news generally is often a difficult conversation, but maybe when you're breaking that bad news with a face mask on and you can't see people's facial reactions, naturally speaking to somebody that's distressed and angry, people's anxiety levels are far higher now than say 4 or 5 months ago, and just kind of thinking about how we can maybe kind of tweak our conversations given the current circumstances.
Absolutely. So to start off with, just looking at conversations over the phone, and what makes them so different to a conversation face to face?
Yeah, I think from kind of experience that when you're having a conversation face to face with somebody, you're able to see their face, they're able to see yours, you can put a face to the name of somebody that you're talking to, you can generally see their body language, how they're reacting, they can see yours. You're limited by a telephone receiver. So thinking about how we would go about those conversations would be preparing. So what do you know and what do you need to know before you make that call? And then thinking about when you're calling, who it is that you're talking to. And actually, if you're delivering bad news, are they on their own? It's very easy just to ask. Do you have anybody else with you at home at the moment? If you're making one of those awful phone calls. Thinking about signposting and using like warning shots. So if you are kind of breaking bad news over the phone, if we're thinking about setting the scene and thinking, I'm afraid it's not good news, and you're almost just giving the warning shot before delivering that news. And just be honest and truthful when you're telling that news, so allowing for silence and keeping your message very, very clear, but also checking as well how much information does that person on the phone want to know too.
How would you do that checking?
I guess probably I would generally say I'm just checking. So what we've spoken about is what you've spoken about, and just to clarify with them, is that your understanding of what we've talked about? And then kind of when you get to the end of your conversation, it's about closing it effectively and reminding them of your name, who they've spoken to, and acknowledging any distress that they've displayed on the telephone. And again, that's very difficult, engaging from somebody's voice, and reminding them that you are available. There is that availability for them to contact you again. But equally, after you've finished, it's about reflecting on how did that go, what did I do well, because you are doing things that are well. Don't think that you aren't. This is an unprecedented situation. Think about what went well, but equally think about actually I might do that a bit differently in the future, and just take that moment to think, I did a good job.
Sure, very, very important points. And just moving on from that slightly, and talking about the conversation that I'm sure a lot of people are most concerned about, and that is when you are breaking bad news. You might be telling somebody that their loved one has died or their loved one is deteriorating and not getting better. What are some of the most pertinent points that you feel practitioners should keep in mind if they find themselves in this situation?
And kind of it's important to say that this will be on a crib sheet, so you will have this as a copy and as a reminder of the things that you just need to keep in the back of your mind. But the 10 kind of steps that we would use to breaking bad news is with preparation, as we've spoken about. So thinking about what you know, what do you need to know, who is it that you're talking to. If we're thinking about patients, what does the patient know? Can you tell me a little bit about what's been happening? Or if you're talking to relatives on the phone, can you tell me a little bit about, what you know, or how mum's been feeling, or how dad's been feeling? How much do they want to know? So you're just checking. So, if they're asking a question such as something like, how long do you think dad's got left? Bounce the question back, what is it that you're asking then? Because when they're asking, how long do you think dad's got left, it could be all manner of things. They're most likely asking you about a timeline of dying, but you don't know that. So always double check with what they're asking. And share it in small chunks. So be really clear, no medical jargon, be really concise, be really clear about what it is that you're saying in your message. And allowing somebody to be angry and upset and have that stage of denial and not accepting that this is happening. Particularly in your situation in care homes, you could have had somebody that's been relatively well and has developed Covid-19 and all of a sudden has become very unwell very, very quickly. It's about allowing that denial as well, explaining, so being clear and concise, and listening to those concerns. If somebody's angry or upset, I can see that you're upset. Encouraging those feelings, so it's okay to feel like that. And just, I guess, kind of summarising and then again offering you availability, that you are available, but just because we've spoken about it now doesn't mean that, you can't get in contact with us again, because ultimately, if, relatives aren't visiting, you're even more of an important advocate between patients and families at the moment.
Absolutely. Would you, I'm just thinking about the terminology that people should be using or could be using when they're having these conversations. And would you advocate that any practitioners use words such as death and dying as opposed to passing away or gone to sleep or something? Do you have any views on that?
Yeah, I think we're very proactive about having open, honest and truthful conversations. If somebody has sadly died, it's okay to say, I'm very sorry, but has died. Don't use terminology such as pass away or, gone to another world or, because those sentences can be misconstrued, and actually you then kind of prolong in that conversation. Just be clear, but there's also that element of compassion and kindness that I'm sure that you do that day in, day out. So it's fine to say that somebody's died and don't be frightened of it.
Yes. And I guess it's so much of it is in the delivery as well, because it doesn't have to be done in a brutal way from that perspective at all. But you did mention before about heightened emotions and perhaps trying to have conversations with somebody who might be very angry or might be very tearful or might even be quite distressed in another way. How does that differ from the other conversations, and what particular things again do practitioners need to keep in mind?
I guess you're probably used to dealing with lots of different emotions, anger, sadness, people crying, but given the situation we're in at the moment, they're probably more heightened than they would be normally. So it's just thinking about the things that you do well and just keeping them focused in your mind. So, as I've said, being very, very clear and acknowledging, if you can hear, you can see that somebody's angry, somebody is upset, it is okay to say, I can see that you're really quite angry, or I'm sorry that you feel that way.
Yeah.
Or, if you're on the phone, you sound like you're quite angry about that. Is that right? Empathising, so, offering that compassion and listening. Often when people are upset or angry, all they want is for somebody to actually listen, so don't interrupt, allow those silences and just let the conversation flow. And obviously your tone of voice, if somebody is angry, often we can get very irate, and our tone of voice can get quite sharp, and our voice levels can get high, and it's just about bringing it back down to mirroring, and hopefully if you speak quite quietly and quite calmly, the individual will follow as well. And it's just about picking up on the cues as well, and often that is probably more difficult on the phone. So if you are kind of looking at somebody, you're able to pick up on those verbal cues if somebody's kind of getting a bit uncomfortable.
Thank you for that. And finally, what pointers might you have for somebody who might still be a little bit worried about having those conversations, especially in this difficult time?
I think firstly of all, it's really, really important to recognise that you're doing a fantastic job in a very difficult situation, and just thinking about being clear, being kind and compassionate. It's what you do, it's your job, it's what you do. Knowing what your own limitations are. So if you're having these conversations, you think, actually I don't feel particularly comfortable, maybe kind of directing somebody's question to somebody that's a little bit more senior than yourself. Talk slowly, be honest and be truthful. Checking those levels of understanding. So just to clarify what we've spoken about is, or just to check, am I hearing right that you think, X, Y and Z? Ensuring that you offer that availability, and that's probably even more important now as families aren't able to go and see their loved ones, so they need you on the end of the phone, they need that support. And importantly, thinking about ending with that moment of self-reflection, of taking a moment, what I've just done was really important and was really quite difficult, and giving yourself a pat on the back and thinking, actually I did that quite well.
Louise, thank you very much.
That's all right.